It gives me great honor to be here representing the 20 member tribes of the Northwest Indian Fish Commission. I appreciate the opportunity to the chair and the committee and my congressman, Congressman Kilmer, the 20 member tribes of the Northwest Indian Fish Commission in western Washington, from the snow caps of the Cascades to the white caps of the Pacific Ocean, is our treaty area. The entire Olympic Peninsula up to the Canadian border and down to Point Chehalis and inward to the east. The tribes formed the Northwest Indian Fish Commission shortly after the Bolt decision in 1974, 1975. Paramount in that, you'll see later here, is rights protection. But I really appreciate this opportunity. I come with the voice of my elders and the voice of my ancestors that supply me with the wherewithal to even stand or sit before a committee. It's such a high honor to represent my people, those that are born and those that have gone before me and those that are yet to come. 3 generations in my family that I have to protect. And I have to protect what my brother Guy McMines fought for and what Billy Frank fought for and what the representatives from these other brother and sister committees, the Great Lakes, the Alaska, the Columbia River, and what we represent. Now, I've come a long ways to even introduce myself as Ed Johnstone, Quinault Tribal member and treasurer of the Northwest Indian Fish Commission. And you know, the opportunity this morning that I heard the chair talk about was we can even talk about climate. And we heard climate discussed here just briefly in some of this testimony. And if you look at our written testimony, and we have enough dialogue, and we could talk about the 4 or 5 that hopefully I can quickly get to, that talk about how that thread is to climate and what it means to us in these changing times. But I started this by looking at how far we've come with this committee over time, just in my time and in trailing with Billy Frank, and you know, listening to Ron and others that been before you, that we've come a long ways. We have a long ways to go. But what I was looking at is the Quiet Crisis Report from 2003, and I looked at what it was talking about, and what it talked about is the health and well-being of our people, our education, our infrastructure, and where we are in these times so many years after we signed those treaties, or whether we're standing on our federal recognition. Us tribes, us Indian people, as Billy Frank would say. And then I looked a little further, and I looked at the new report that got started in 2015. And this gentleman right here, my congressman, was one of the signatories that asked for a new review that came out in December of 18, sent to the president. Talks about that unmet need. And you know, so I looked at our appropriations request, and I said, well, you know, gee, that makes a lot of sense, because we're under a tremendous amount of pressure because of climate. Now, everything that we talked about in many, many years of coming to these hearings are still in place, but the big exclamation point is climate. When we talk about Anderson Glacier disappearing in the Olympic Mountains, which feeds the Quinault River, which feeds the iconic Quinault blueback salmon, that is in peril, that may disappear in my lifetime. President Sharp, my counsel, just like the gentleman that you heard from Yurok, just like you're going to hear from the rest of this panel, just like you hear from the Yukon, these salmon stocks are in trouble, and our home rivers, the water is so warm that the adults can't make it to spawn. They run out of oxygen. Then their progeny, the little ones that come out of the gravel, it's warm water. exacerbated by predation, the unbalance. All these things are unbalanced because there is no normal natural function anymore. It's all changing. The predation, the seals and sea lions and so forth. Those things are all changing. So geographic, where am I going with this? I'm thanking the congressman, and I looked at the new quiet crisis, and I'm saying, okay, it's a new edition of that unmet need, and this is what we're talking about, Chairman Allen, the unmet need. All of us up here that are talking about our natural resources, and we've been real. You've asked us to be real over time, so we're not putting this big, huge number out there. We're trying to go incrementally as we take these issues on. We need the big number, like Chairman Allen said, and we all are going to express about the dynamics of the challenges that we're facing. And we challenge them together, all of us. And we're place-based, as the young lady said before, particularly with our treaty right. So, when we talk about Puget Sound geographic, the EPA, that's big. How do we get there? Well, we use that SHEAP money. Look in there, that SHEAP money. That's how we do our watershed planning, the state-of-the-art documents that shows what these watersheds conditions are in. And then it follows you into hatchery operations and maintenance, because we are dependent more now than ever on our existence with that salmon for those hatchery fish. That leads you in to look at the additional tagging trailer that we need because of those requirements Chairman Allen's talking about with the tagging and the data and all that stuff that's important. There's a way to really make sense, and we've talked to your staffs, and they are number one. And they can help us give you the information that gives you the support that you can stand up for Indian country and stand up for our people, those yet unborn, and those of us that are glad to be here today testifying in front of this committee, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.